Hi, my name is Jonathan Harris. I'm Chief Strategist for Pre-Sales, covering the North American Enterprise group at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And today I'm going to share with you some ideas and thoughts and an overview of HPE's artificial intelligence solution offering. So we really see AI everywhere these days. It's in anytime we navigate in our car, we're leveraging AI. And all of our smart home appliances, we use Siri, Electra, or Google Assistant. That uses AI. Autonomous driving and autonomous machinery and robotics leverage AI. And of course, sometimes we don't think about it, but every social media platform that we interact with leverages AI. So the Facebooks and TikToks of the world are using AI to curate the information and the offerings that they give to you. And we see AI in a lot of different industries, and I've got a few of those up here on the slide. Some of the key ones that we see a lot, and in the word cloud, right, we can see a lot of those use cases. Again, social media, manufacturing, education, defense, financial services, augmented reality, a lot of different ones in there, and it just continues to grow the way the AI is being used. Um, there's a lot of different kinds of AI, which is one of the reasons it's so prolific. Um, for instance, we've got computer vision for video and image analytics, which is utilized in security and safety, object detection, tracking, classification within video surveillance, things like that. There's natural language processing, text analytics, speech to text capabilities, and call categorization in call centers. And kind of really popular ones today with um, the increased use of ChatGPT is generative AI, where there's AI created or generated content. And that's you take text or an image as input, and you get the AI then creates or outputs text or another image. And this leverages large language models, a machine learning type of technology. So there's, like I said, there's all kinds of use cases. There's many types of artificial intelligence, and some of them are just outlined here. So this shouldn't be seen as a futuristic sort of a thing. It's already being leveraged an awful lot even today. Now, most organizations are looking for a way to gain competitive edge, right? They want to create a better experience for their customers. They can create better experience for their employees, find a way to make more money. And what we're seeing is that artificial intelligence and advanced analytics are representing two of the top three priorities for CIOs in organization. Why? Because they think that they can leverage this, or the truth is they can leverage this in order to meet those company goals, those organizational goals. And enterprise AI adoption is gaining a lot of speed, a lot of headway. We're seeing a growth of more than 2.5% over the last 4 years. And it's interesting, though, that in spite of that growth, we're really just getting started in this space. This is something that's new. And with any new technology, there's definitely challenges associated with that. And some of the challenges that we're seeing leaders within organizations, CIOs, CFOs, CEOs, they're having a hard time identifying the right use cases for AI and machine learning that are applicable to where they can provide the best return on investment. So it's one thing to do a science project and see what it could do. The other thing is to actually make it make money for you and make sure that your investment is a good investment. So that's a tough thing and a challenge that many organizations are running into. Another major challenge is bringing the skill gap or bridging the skill gap and identifying new roles to help in the AI journey. So how do you get the right people in your organization in order to do AI effectively? And then additionally, kind of in conjunction with that, is building competency in technologies like big data and how to transform underlying IT infrastructure to consumption models, and to be able to scale so that they can so they have the capabilities basically of supporting artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions. So those are some of the challenges that they're running into. And most organizations are still, um, even once they get to that point and they're actually deploying and using artificial intelligence, they're still having challenges deploying and operationalizing that AI and into services and applications that can actually be used. And in fact, when we look statistically, we're seeing that 85% of companies get no value out of their model development because IT can't operationalize it. And Gartner even says that more than half, 60% of models developed are never operationalized. So that's a lot of time and energy spent by data scientists developing models for it to really bring no benefit to the overall organization. We also see that more than half, 56% of companies struggle with data governance, security, and auditability. And you might wonder, what does that have to do with artificial intelligence? But the truth is, artificial intelligence is really just automating insight out of data. And so if you can't manage where the data is, access to the data, if you can't determine compliance with the use of the data, then you can't really build database solutions. Um, and we also see almost half, 45% of these companies that are utilizing artificial intelligence that, oh, I'm sorry, not 45% of the companies, 45% of data scientists within the companies are spending the majority of their time um, not doing their real job, which is developing artificial intelligence and machine learning models, but really babysitting the infrastructure and the platforms and the tool sets associated with running AI. And that's problematic too, right? Because that drains the AI resources that you have and slows your time to value. And these issues are found when adopting any kind of new technology, but we are seeing this especially acute with artificial intelligence. And I think it's because the adoption rate is so high. Um, we want to kind of maybe look at this a little bit different day. We can break this down on how artificial intelligence is generally adopted within an organization, and we can see that there's some real practical challenges with this is stepped into. So there's a real broad range and landscape of platforms and tools that organizations can use, and it's difficult to standardize on the right ones when building a machine learning or artificial intelligence platform, which can then can inhibit the ability to scale over time. And we'll talk more about that, I think, on some subsequent slides. But if we look at generally how AI is deployed within an organization, we see in day one, the data science the data scientists kind of start a science project, if you will. And things start really small and simple. There's one or two data scientists. They choose a technology platform that they're familiar with, something that a peer has recommended to them, or something, whatever platforms or tools they used when they went to school, and they can start running this little science project on a server under their desk. And they'll curate their own set of tools and kind of develop those together, and they'll experiment and play with what the possibilities are in there. And if they don't come up with good outcome, there's no real fallout or repercussions for that at that point in time, because really it's just kind of test and see, test and see. But as this scales, right, as you step into day two and the organization wants to operationalize the insights that are gained by this science project, things change a lot, because the organization wants to expand the capabilities. And this means that the enterprise requires shared resources and infrastructure for the team. Because in order to do bigger things, you need more horsepower. More horsepower means more dollar investment. It means more complex infrastructure. And that has to be shared in order to be utilized in an effective way. If you invest heavily in GPUs, if you're not using those GPUs, you're wasting a lot of money. It's an expensive resource. So sharing those resources and managing them appropriately becomes key. And that can become complicated, especially since that's not really the bailiwick or the strong point of a standard data scientist. It also requires a standardization of tools, right? Because as you bring in more people, so you go from 2 data scientists to 6 data scientists, if you don't have standardized tools and processes and procedures, then you're not going to scale well. It's you're not going to be able to grow. You will get in your own way, and you won't be able to share also the innovations that you're doing. Um, and then aside from that standardization piece, there's also standardization around process and procedure for the hardware and the software platforms that are being leveraged. So the enterprise as a whole doesn't want data scientists doing the heavy lifting of platform and infrastructure management. They as growing capacity or as requirements come to grow capacity, more GPUs, more CPUs, more memory, more platform, more software licenses, all those sort of things. Those need to be shared, as we talked about before, and that needs to be managed by people that are experts in doing that thing, which would be some kind of infrastructure team. That doesn't necessarily have to be the corporate organization. It could be within the business unit, but that's not really the data scientist's job. And this is where HPE can help. And let me break it down a different way and hopefully this will make sense. I'm going to build out a couple of these things. So there's two main ways that organizations generally step into and start deploying artificial intelligence solutions within their organizations. And up in the top left, right, we see the kind of the first way, which is the hyperscalers and comprehensive AI ML platforms, kind of an all-inclusive sign up, and you can have access to tools that can do everything in a platform that you can grow easily, and you could do it all with a subscription and all of those sort of things. So examples, AWS with SageMaker, Microsoft with Azure ML, and Google with GCP Vertex. And there's also other ones. There's kind of these no code, low code type of solutions out there. Data IQ, Data Robot, Domain Data Labs, Databricks. These are other ones that kind of offer these all-inclusive, don't have to build your own type of solutions. And this approach is for the data scientists to get accustomed to and certified on their unique platform. Let's be realistic. I mean, these are companies that want to make money, and they are looking to offer something simple that will lock people in. And once you're locked in by skills and knowledge of the platform and the tools, you've got execution lock-in, meaning that's what you know. Once you've invested in those resources to learn that platform, you're very unlikely to leave that platform because of the ramp up to do something different. You'll notice NVIDIA kind of sits on here as well. NVIDIA's solutions are edging toward the fully integrated quadrant with a strategy to lock customers in and use their accelerators exclusively. As they've developed more tools, more software, even example machine learning models and things like that they are offering to customers. So again, very cool solutions and offer an easy step in for a lot of customers to start utilizing these platforms to develop artificial intelligence. But in the other side of the spectrum, right down in the bottom right, we've got AI consumers doing a high degree of DIY, the do-it-yourself. Right? This is a lot more like a science project, like I mentioned before. They use open source almost exclusively. They do all the lifecycle management, the platforms and the tools themselves, which of course you don't have to worry about in that top left quadrant. But it also imposes a really heavy workload on the data scientists, right? There are a lot of platform management associated with this. And that reduces productivity. It increases the cost of the solution as it grows. When it's small, it's not a big deal. As it grows, that starts becoming problematic. So HPE offers kind of a best of both worlds, right? By curating the right partners, the right open source components, and simplifying the range of options, and potentially even then managing it for our customers, giving them a similar experience to what they would have in the top left, but with the customization, the flexibility of what you get in the bottom right. And really what HPE is offering here is a foundation for differentiated AI at scale, and as a service from edge to cloud, and a common user experience in the AI lifecycle, and optimization for heterogeneous compute environments. So with all of those things together, right, you can see how you can get the value of either one of these approaches without the pain associated with those. So HPE's vision, our mantra around AI, if you will, today, is to build the world's best platform for developing and deploying AI applications at scale. And the most critical piece of this is highlighted in blue: AI applications at scale. And at scale is defined by like the number of compute nodes, the amount of data, the size of the models, the number of the models, the number of people that are developing AI, et cetera. So as those things increase, all these different resources associated with AI development, as those increase, that is scale within this context. And so a lot of the applications and the vendors and capabilities in the market are meant more from to be used in niche. They're experimental for small operations. They're not really meant to be utilized at scale, or they're meant to be utilized at scale. They lock you in, which gives you execution lock in, and you're maybe not the flexibility that you need in order to expand all your capabilities on your AI platforms. So because HPE is focused at scale, we can provide this, but we do this um, through our unique combination of offerings, right? This isn't like an easy checkbox, but there's multiple offerings HPE has that allow us to support this type of an approach and strategy. And those include the most advanced portfolio of high performance compute infrastructure in the market today, hands down. There are some amazing manufacturers out there making amazing compute platforms, but as far as breadth and depth, HPE's is bar none the best out there. There's also best in class AI software platforms and tools from HPE. And not everybody knows that HPE actually has software that runs AI and is part of the, the artificial intelligence infrastructure stack. And we do. Some of that is by acquisition, some of it is stuff we've developed ourselves. Um, Flexible integration. This is really key, and it's why one of the reasons that the box is here in the middle. Flexible integration with open source and partner technologies. So this is the flexibility of that quadrant in the bottom right, right, that we don't get in the top left. Um, and HPE embraces this idea that it's too early on in the development of artificial intelligence to lock yourself into anything too much. In order then to support that and all the other things to the left, HPE offers expertise and services for implementing, developing, and managing AI solutions. So if one of the struggles that organizations run into is how do you bridge the gap of knowledge? How do you make this happen at scale? And HPE basically can step in and has people with expertise and experience to be able to do those things and help our customers. And the last one, which is again makes us pretty unique, but um, offers the flexibility of consumption that you get in the top left quadrant from the previous slide to those that want the flexibility of the do-it-yourself approach in the bottom right. So really flexible consumption models that can meet any organization's needs. And that doesn't just mean as a service or subscriptions. It means that maybe it's capital purchases, and maybe it's financing. It just depends. And the key piece there is that the consumption options, managed, not managed services, are flexible. So I'd like to start by focusing on these first two. And I won't dig into the technologies on a deep level, but I'd like to overview the advanced HPC infrastructure and the AI software and platform tools that HPE has to offer. So here we've got a timeline, kind of the history of development of technologies and capabilities and services that HPE is invested in order to get us to where we are today. And we're still moving, right? We're certainly not the end of this. There will be some additional investment, actually even much additional investment moving into the future. So HPE really has been providing high performance compute platforms for 40 plus years. So it's something we've been doing. But if you look at current modernized systems, back in 2014, when we introduced the Apollo server line, that was kind of a first step into what we call our modern HPC infrastructure, and a differentiation between standard flexible compute platforms and high performance. And we continue to grow out this portfolio, this high performance compute, with our acquisition of SGI in 2016, which brought us the Superdome Flex platforms and the HPC, the High Performance Compute Management Platform. And then into 2019 with the acquisition of Cray, offering the Shasta the Shasta systems, cluster storage, and slingshot technologies for high performance throughput connectivity. And really that acquisition of Cray marked the point where HPE was able to address the whole spectrum of customers from a high performance compute standpoint. So really being able to offer a solution for anybody, a lab, a university, a government organization, a large enterprise, a small group. So really everything, and also be able to deploy from everywhere, from the edge of the network all the way into an exascale data center. And so really we see that development, but even that is kind of back, and we see a lot of other investments. There's also the internal AI investments HPE has made with the acquisition of Aruba and Nimble InfoSight. We saw that we acquired internal AI solutions, and we learned from our experience deploying and leveraging those. And that wisdom and that experience has then bled over into our services. We've also invested in customer-facing types of services. In 2018, we released our AI and data practice within HPE PointNext Services Division. And there's also, in 2019, we had our AI Transformation Workshop and AI Agile methodology. So we developed our own standardized approach to deploying AI in organizations to simplify that and make it easier for our customers. Some really key acquisitions that were made that were a basis is the acquisition of MapR, Blue Data, and Ampool, all rolled into what we call our Ezmeral suite of software. MapR becoming our Ezmeral Data Fabric, Blue Data becoming our Ezmeral Runtime Environment, and Ampool, our Ezmeral Unified Analytics, all important for developing container-based artificial intelligence environments. Some of the other acquisitions that are key is in 2021, Determined AI, one of my favorite acquisitions around artificial intelligence. It was an open source project. It continues to be open source, but also there's an enterprise version that we now call the Machine Learning Development Environment. Internally, HPE developed SmartSim framework, and this was an open source project developed by HPE. It enabled machine learning and AI to be applied to what were traditionally HPC simulation workloads. And it enabled additional functionality to these simulations, like online inferencing and online analysis. So kind of live stuff as it's processing the data, continuous training, model steering, and cool visualizations. And just an example of how this kind of played out, HPE partnered in the climate science space. They partnered with the NREL using SmartSim to show the first ever comprehensive movement of energy in the ocean over a 1 year period of time based on a 10-year simulation. So some kind of cool real life stuff that we've been able to do utilizing this open source stuff that HPE has developed. In 2022, HPE acquired Pachyderm, very critical for data management within machine learning pipelines, manages data versioning, lineage, and labeling, kind of that whole triage management, life cycle of data piece that is so key to automate that and simplify it. And another really cool technology that was developed internally at HPE and then was released in 2022, which is swarm learning. This was developed by Hewlett Packard Labs. It provides an efficient, secure, and private, decentralized machine learning environment to be distributed at the edge, so that machine learning models can be developed and honed out where the data is collected within the network rather than back in the data center. And a really cool way to deploy machine learning at the data source and then share insights in a secure way with machine learning peers. So HPE has really adopted this forward-thinking approach to emerging technologies. And we even created a program specific to building strong partnerships with the most exciting and promising technology providers in the market. So the idea is not to lock ourselves in with just what we've invested in, but we recognize there's all kinds of other great technologies out there. Just as an extra piece of emphasis here, I wanted to put up the portfolio of compute platforms and hardware platforms that HPE has to offer to support AI workloads. And you know, initially some of these platforms weren't necessarily designed for AI, but they're good use cases because the density, the flexibility, support for GPUs that they have to offer, a support for in-memory systems that we see, like for instance, in the Superdome Flex systems. But everything from the Cray supercomputers that can run teraflops and teraflops within the data center to some ruggedized edge-line systems that still support GPUs and accelerators, but are meant to be deployed into harsher environments. And then even just the super flexible ProLiants that allow environments to be small or large, to scale very easily, give lots of flexibility from a configuration, but still, amongst all these, your enterprise level management, your enterprise level security, and durability and availability, all the things that you would expect out of business critical and mission critical systems. So again, coming back to those 5 main values that HPE is offering, let's move to the next 2. The open source and partner integration and the expertise and services that HPE has to offer. And these kind of go hand in hand. So as I mentioned before, one of the challenges to developing and operating AI is how prolific the market is as far as platforms and tools. And here is an indication of that. In fact, this slide's crazy. You can't read anything on. I recognize that's the case. But this is the overwhelmingness of this slide is an indicator of how crowded and confusing and how continuously changing the market is in these tools and platforms. And so this particular slide, this isn't developed by HPE. This graphic is published each year by an analyst by the name of Matt Turk. And it focuses on everything around analytics and data and all the different options out there. But the center section, right, is about machine learning and artificial intelligence. So why don't we zoom in on that? So we'll bring this up. And it's really filled out over the last few years. And in fact, this particular release is a couple years old, so there's probably more in there than there even is today. And we see all kinds of options around machine learning platforms, computer vision tools, natural language processing, um, and data science notebooks. I mean, those are just a few of the different categories of tools and platforms that we see within artificial intelligence. And there's a lot out there. And you can see that even within each of those, there's a lot of different tools and options to choose from. And that lack of standardization and lack of clarity of what the best fit is can cause a lot of confusion, can slow down deployment cycles, and can cause mistakes. So HPE can help with this, right? We bring expertise and experience around choosing these. We're open. We have an open standards approach, so we don't have to force our customers into one option or another. And we can help our customers make the right selections to build their own, ML ops pipelines and artificial AI-based solutions. And just to kind of fortify our approach here, we're not alone. The market experts agree with us that it's still really early to lock yourself into particular tools and platforms. It's important to have some flexibility because the market and the technologies are growing so fast, as well as what people are deciding to do with AI is also changing an awful lot. And we see that there is value and benefit in using various options, as long as using various options doesn't slow down innovation and your return on investment. And staying open to different vendors doesn't mean, though, that you stay open to all of them. It's also important to standardize so that you can move at scale and move quickly. So talking to customers, partners, and the analysts in the market, they're actually agreeing with HPE's approach to this, which isn't necessarily what other people are doing, specifically our competitors in this area. So, looking at the CRN report, we're identified in the top 10 coolest AI platforms. IDC report says that we're a leader. The Forrester um, report back from 2021. This was the first year that HPE was part of the report. They said that we were a strong performer and ranked high in strength with our current offering. And of course, that's a couple years ago. We've actually had significant more investment and experience since that time. So we've moved, I'm sure we'll move up in the next version of their report. In 2022, though, I like this one, the AI Information Ecosystem Report from 2022. It talks about all the same things that I mentioned, or that our strategy is based on. It talks about how AI software infrastructure and the state of the market. And within the report, they validate this idea that it's too soon to lock yourself in. That there's that data lock-in locks in your data, locks in your scientists, locks in your execution, and that you really do need to be able to be flexible. And at that point in time, they called out HPE Solutions as favorable, specifically calling out the HPE Ezmeral platforms and the machine learning development environment. So really, the market's identified that HPE is on the right track as far as how we're going. And keep in mind that the market of AI solutions, including HPE, is still day one, and there's going to be a lot more greatness and amazing things to come. So let's look at an example of what does this really mean, this openness to open source, ability to partner with other people, and leveraging HPE services. This is what a typical machine learning workflow looks like. There's a data phase where there's data preparation, validation, processing, and before this would be some kind of data fabric where the data is stored. But this is the part that aggregates the data. It's a big part of the data scientist's job, right? To walk through this piece, identify what's good data, what's not data, come up with a hypothesis like how can I build a better fraud detection system in my retail environments? And then you pick the right data for that. And then you have to find ways to get that data into your pipeline so it can be analyzed and you can build out models based on it. And so there's a lot of energy and time that's spent in that process, and it can be very manual unless you get the right tools to help you automate that whole piece and keep it compliant. Then once that data is triaged basically and set up, the next piece of the workflow is it goes into the model training or the modeling phase, and that's model training, analysis of the training of the models, validation of them, and then ultimately a way of queuing them up to be deployed, to be operationalized and used within the applications in the environment. So, and then ultimately, then you've got your deployment and feedback phase. So the model will need to be deployed and used, but the model will drift over time, or it becomes less effective, right? Because the real world changes over time, data changes over time. So then what happens is that model needs to be retrained. It needs to be re-enter the MLOps pipeline again. So that's kind of the way, the cycle of how that works. And this is kind of the middle of an AI solution that uses machine learning. So I'm going to build this out. If we look at what tools and platforms are used in order to support that pipeline, we can look at the same data development and deployment type of phase. And this is a simplified from the previous slide of some of the key popular options in these spaces. And we can see there's a lot there in each one of those categories. But leveraging HPE, their expertise, our own products, of course, and our own experience, we can help narrow this down. And we can help narrow it down in a way guaranteeing that it will meet your needs at scale, so that we're not guessing and having to do some big pivot or change later on. So let's see what this looks like. So we simplify this down until we have just a couple options in each one of these categories and each one of these components. And HPE this would be a very common recommendation in the EDA, utilizing Spark, Pachyderm. For the other data management pieces, MapR as a data source or for your where you're going to get your data from. And then within the development environment, utilizing the determined AI, which is the machine learning development environment that HPE has today, um, and building out for experimentation, leveraging some other open source tools like Jupyter, partner tools like Jupyter, open source tools like Kubernetes, and then also building out the infrastructure underneath, all those resources, the GPUs, the memory, the CPUs, all the connectivity, all those pieces. And in this particular case, we would recommend leveraging Hewlett Packard Enterprise in colo or in a data center, our hardware. But it could also be done in a cloud. And then in the deployment phase, standardizing on a good solid solution that can handle most of the parts of this. K-serve is a common one. Seldom is another one that we'll use sometimes. That used to be kind of our standard, and now we've moved to K-serve more. You notice there are a couple gaps in the optimization, the testing, and the robustness pieces. HPE will have some investments and some additional expertise in these areas in the near future. But so again, we went from too many options, what seems like a very complex type of solution to build out, to something very, very simple. And that turns your pipeline into something like this. Pachyderm for managing the data part, the machine learning development environment for the modeling, and K-serve for the automation and the deployment, and then model feedback. So really just three key pieces acting as the pillars for the MLOps pipeline. And actually, this is an environment, this type of suggestion is very similar to the environment that HPE is partnering with one of their customers, Lockheed Martin, on. And HPE used the same methodology with Lockheed Martin to build what they call their AI factory. And we created a standardized AI ecosystem. They had something very siloed and disparate, and it had been spread out with using lots of different things. So by building out the standardized AI ecosystem, it increased their trust internally and externally. It increased their performance significantly and simplified the architecture and operations. And it also increased the speed of innovation for supporting national security missions, which is very important in and of itself. So let's look at this in context of the overall solution, right? The whole platform itself. And we can see kind of in the middle in the purple, that's where that the machine learning pipeline is going to be that we just looked at. But there's all these other pieces that kind of tie into it. And that middle piece is what ties them together ultimately. That platform is what supports everything else. Starting at the bottom, you've got your optimized infrastructure, compute, storage, accelerators, software, operating systems, all those pieces kind of come together in that bottom part. And then you move up into that data layer, which is kind of that dark purple part. And that's data aggregation, fabrics, connectivity between those pieces. And there can actually be multiple components in there, which we see here. Pachyderm would be a key piece in managing and triaging that and feeding it into the layer up above. But you also need ways to store it and to handle the file systems and the objects associated with that data. And those are going to be the other options that are in there. And then as we move up, we get into the modeling layer, which we already kind of talked about with the pipeline, leveraging machine learning development environment, as well as the K-serve piece for moving that then into production. So everything up to this part of the architecture has been focused on what we call AI builders. They're the ones that acquire the platform. They work with their own data sets. They select appropriate algorithms. They're the data scientists, and they'll populate those algorithms with data, and they'll build out models and make useful applications out of that. Now, above this layer, though, in that blue area, we've got what we call AI buyers. That's what that's focused on. Above this layer, these are industry-specific workload solutions that people are buying more as a turnkey or an all-inclusive solution that plugs into the stuff underneath. So these are usually focused on specific business needs, and they leverage an AI ISV that specializes in their need, and that's specific to their business. And an ISV meaning an individual software vendor. So for example, here in the top left, Relimetrics and Darwin. These are ISV applications specific for the manufacturing industry, and they use computer vision to detect um, defects in manufactured products. And this is kind of a turnkey solution, right? That can be hosted on HPE infrastructure, but then leverages the underlying platform in order to really gain insight and to work. So HPE can basically build solutions to support customers that are AI builders or AI buyers. So let's metamorphosize this just a little bit and look at it in a different context. If we look at it as far as where the solutions or where the components come from as well, and we can see that in this way, HPE is very unique in the market, and it shows here we see kind of an aggregate of all the components that are in each one of these layers. So I put little markers, the little triangles next to each one of these components to kind of see where does it come from. And we see the blue markers, that's the HPE intellectual property. Those are HPE products. And we see there's actually not a lot of blue in here. Now it's significant. It does a lot as far as making everything work, but isn't everything that's involved. And then we move on to the orange, which are going to be the open source components. And then in the red, we see our partner components. And again, lots of those. And we see a lot of those sit down in that optimized infrastructure space. A lot of open source up here in the machine learning environments, and a lot of partnering in the hardware piece, which makes sense in the software platforms. And the other thing that I would point out, which is the yellow triangles, there's a yellow triangle on everything there, which means all of these components are supported by, developed, can be developed by, supported by, installed by, managed by HPE Point Next services. So if you don't have expertise in this, HPE can have expertise and help you make that happen. Now, additionally, there is on the far side, which covers everything, the ability then to acquire all these things in a flexible consumption type of model. So that allows our customers to acquire part or the entire solution the way they want. So CapEx, OpEx, subscriptions, financing options. And also this gives flexibility around services as well, fully managed, partially managed, or customer managed. And so really we can see a very flexible way that HPE is able to offer solutions to AI buyers and builders with this kind of open coupling together, right? This ability to partner with open source technology partners, and then making that all work, leveraging our services. So this really brings us to the last key piece here, which is flexible consumption. So this has actually been kind of a topic that has been interesting to a lot of our customers, especially with the introduction and uh, the high adoption of hyperscalers, which offer kind of an as a service solution to infrastructure. But since that isn't really the end all for all things, and really, as we talked about before, it can actually cause some limitations when deploying artificial intelligence type solutions. You have to look at, well, how can you get that same experience, that as a service experience, when you are applying it to infrastructure in your data center or in a colo? And this is kind of what that looks like. So this purple line shows the utilization of capacity, meaning CPU, memory, GPUs, storage, networking ports, whatever the case happens to be, utilization of resources inside your data center. And this orange line shows the traditional upfront purchasing pattern that most organizations would use, right? Most customers have a long acquisition cycle, and due to the risks of running out of capacity, that means that they over provision. They buy more than they need at that particular time. And in an as a service model, there is no over provisioning. You pay for the capacity that you need, and the savings are, and we can see the savings for doing that here in the green. And generally, this leads to a lower TCO, a lower upfront cost for sure. And then that savings can be redistributed and used other places. This yellow line shows the elastic capacity that's deployed in an as a service model from Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And you don't pay for this capacity until you actually use it, even though it's there and it's on hand to be used when needed. And the blue areas here show where capacity was not available during a traditional purchasing scenario, and meaning there was demand but no capacity to meet it. And this is usually caused by long procurement cycles or unplanned demand, which does happen, and inhibits IT initiatives. And it really kind of can destroy some business opportunities if you can't react quickly enough to get the capacity that you need. Um, So really this HPE infrastructure as a service can help avoid those delays and those missed opportunities. And you burst into the elastic capacity right away because it's already there. And that elastic capacity can be replenished quickly as the utilization increases. And you just pay for the capacity usage along the purple line, right? This avoids cost of over provisioning and it still allows you to grow very quickly. Now, infrastructure as a service comes in different forms, and here are a few of the options. It's not limited to this. There's HPE GreenLake IaaS, or infrastructure as a service. These are customized or standardized configurations. They are self-service. They're based on subscription. They're SLA driven, and they usually generally use standardized technology platforms. So kind of t-shirt size type of stuff, but you can custom build it out and just pay for what you use and manage it yourself. There are also HPE GreenLake turnkey solutions. So these are customized IaaS solutions with management services associated with them, and elevated support services. So it's standardized software and hardware components, but then are managed and deployed by HPE for very specific use cases. So some examples of these bundles or turnkey solutions would be HPE GreenLake for ML Ops, HPE GreenLake for high performance compute, and HPE GreenLake for data fabric. And you notice the HPE GreenLake brand name being associated with those, that being the brand that we associate with our cloud native experience and cloud operational model consumption type of experience that we offer to our customers for these bundled solutions. And ultimately, all of these solutions under the GreenLake as a service model are always monitored by HPE GreenLake Cloud Platform, or GLCP, for visibility, watching utilization and cost over time. So again, bring this on to all back. HPE's vision is to build the world's best platform for developing and deploying AI applications at scale. And HPE can provide that AI scale at scale because of our unique combination of offerings. Specifically, right? First of all, the best advanced portfolio of HPC infrastructure in the market today. Best in class AI software platforms and tools from HPE, flexible integration with open source and partner technologies, expertise and services for implementing and managing AI solutions, and last, flexible consumption model to meet any organization's needs. I hope this was useful to you. Appreciate your time.